An equipment strategy for many trucking companies often looks like this. The CEO secures and allocates the capital for fleet procurement. A maintenance executive provides the company's specs, maintenance policy, and vendor selection. And field management personnel manage the shop, PM, and breakdown processes while also being accountable for equipment productivity. If that's an accurate description of the entire equipment strategy at your company, you are missing a valuable piece: equipment placement. And especially during tough economic times, a successful equipment placement strategy can deliver a significant cost savings that will greatly improve your ability to compete and survive. Here's how it works. Unless every piece of your equipment is the exact same model and model year, there are differences in the running cost of your fleet. An equipment placement strategy leverages fleet differences in fuel economy, weight, age, and odometer miles by matching those differences to terminal differences in length of haul, average miles run per year, average payload, geographic location, and shop status. Let's begin with fuel economy. The highest MPG equipment should be placed at the terminals that consistently have the longest run. The concept is simple. You want the most miles on your most fuel-efficient equipment and the least miles on your least fuel-efficient equipment. For example, 0.4 of a mile per gallon difference in fuel economy on runs that average 13,000 miles more per year could result in an annual savings of approximately 200 gallons for each truck on that run. APUs and bunk heaters can also be major components of the fuel economy equation. Obviously, equipment so equipped should be placed on the runs that have the most overnight stays. If your fleet is only partially equipped with these items, include climate considerations in your strategy by placing bunk heater equipment in the northernmost terminals and APUs in the southernmost terminals. Equipment weight may be a factor on runs or at terminals with payloads that gross out instead of cube out. Placing lighter weight equipment in applications that allow for additional freight to be hauled with each load reduces the total number of loads required while increasing revenue per mile. Equipment age offers opportunity in the area of maintenance cost. Your newest equipment is the least prone to breakdowns and therefore should be placed on 2-shift runs that operate at night when shops are closed. Additionally, if all of your terminals don't have shops, newer equipment should be placed at those locations without shops to minimize use of expensive outside maintenance vendors. Conversely, older equipment should be placed at terminals with domiciled shops to leverage cheaper in-house maintenance services. Also, like model equipment should be consolidated at terminals with shops to reduce the required levels of parts inventories. Odometer miles are another consideration when developing an equipment placement strategy. Most lease provisions have residual penalties once a piece of equipment exceeds a certain mileage range. A rotation plan can minimize these penalties by rotating higher mileage equipment into lower mileage applications prior to reaching the odometer threshold. Understanding both the range of options and the cost-saving opportunities associated with an equipment placement strategy makes it obvious that an effective strategy is not a one-time or even a once-a-year event. Terminals and freight patterns are dynamic, and that requires that trucking companies constantly monitor their fleet for placement opportunities. This is especially true during periods of depressed volumes resulting from a weak or recessionary economy. For example, trucks are often semi-permanently assigned to drivers for safety and retention reasons. If volumes drop at a terminal, that may impact the balance of local and long-haul freight, resulting in day cab drivers hauling long-haul freight on a regular basis. Since the driver can't sleep in the cab, that driver comes home every night, often resulting in lost backhaul opportunities. Additionally, lower freight volumes may force layoffs in idle trucks. Individual terminals may make the right decisions regarding which equipment they idle, but layoffs will likely be more severe at some terminals than others. That means that on a company level, there will probably be terminals operating older, more costly equipment than what is parked at other terminals. The uniqueness of your operations will probably mandate inclusion of other considerations above the generic ones we just discussed. These could include different sizes and types of trailers, owner-operator runs, and work rule restrictions of a Teamster company, to name just a few. It's probably apparent from the quantity of placement considerations discussed that establishing an effective equipment placement strategy requires a great deal of work. It should also be equally apparent that because there are so many considerations, taking the time to develop and manage a placement strategy offers a significant opportunity to reduce operating costs. To develop your strategy, take a committee approach. Include maintenance and operations professionals that know the performance differences in your equipment and the operational differences in your terminals. Rank those differences in terms of cost-benefit and use that ranking to develop a fleet placement draft, where all of your equipment is assigned to terminals based on optimal applications. Be sure to include in your strategy terminal assignments for new equipment scheduled to be added to your fleet in the near future. Bump your draft against actual placements and develop a rotation plan that will reposition equipment to its best application through use of your existing freight network to make transfers on a loaded basis where possible. Your committee also needs to develop a monitoring process and monitoring reports to manage the equipment placement strategy going forward. And finally, individual accountability must be assigned for performing the actual monitoring to allow for prompt placement adjustments as needed. Opportunities to reduce costs through a well-thought-out equipment placement strategy are real and significant. Obviously, the larger your fleet and terminal footprint, the greater your savings potential. That being said, even single terminal operations can have significant enough differences in their equipment and their runs to generate a benefit from such a strategy. The amount of capital associated with operating a fleet is huge, making it all the more vital for trucking CEOs to capitalize on every available opportunity to maximize the utilization and minimize the cost of operating their fleet. An effective fleet placement strategy will provide you the best chance of doing just that.